ভয়েস ক্লিয়ার?
খুব যে ক্লিয়ার বলা যাচ্ছে না, আগের ঘর থেকে বেটার শোনা যাচ্ছিল।
হ্যাঁ। আচ্ছা, আমি দেখছি আর একটু করার চেষ্টা করি। এবার কি বেটার হচ্ছে?
একটু বেটার হচ্ছে।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, মানে শোনা যাচ্ছে তো?
হ্যাঁ, যাচ্ছে যাচ্ছে, এবার বোধহয় ঠিক আছে।
ওকে ওকে,
হুম।
থ্যাংক ইউ বিশাল, থ্যাংক ইউ ফর দ্য কনফার্মেশন. A very good morning. I can still say good morning because it's not 12 noon yet. We welcome Dr. Avishek Rai, Assistant Professor of Cultural Studies from NIT Shilchar, Assam, amongst us. Thank you, Dr. Rai, for agreeing to share your observations regarding the GATE exam for the listeners. This call is being recorded, and I would request the listeners to please switch off your microphones and cameras, keeping that in mind. Dr. Ray is a very promising scholar. I will be honest, I have not come across many versatile scholars like him, and I have had the pleasure to listen to him previously, and I'm sure today, although he will not exactly be talking about his areas of interest, I'm sure we will benefit from his observations. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. Dr. Ray's talk will be followed by an interactive session, and I will request the listeners to reserve their questions for that. So, without further ado, I am handing over the session to Dr. Ray. So, Abhishek, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Devaditya Mukhopadhyay, like a friend and colleague, for the very humbling introduction. And of course, it's a pleasure. I thank the principal of the college for considering me, and thanks to the audience for their patience to join the session to afternoon. So I'm going to speak, as the flyer might give you some sort of a misimpression that I'm going to speak on preparing for HSS for GET. But then, like what I'm going to say, in fact, is that preparing for GET is no different than preparing for NET. So what I'm going to do instead, and that's why I said the flyer might be some sort of a misimpression. I thought it's probably better to give you an idea of how and why GATE is different from NET, in what aspects preparing for GATE or the implications in terms of job prospects and things, or research prospects, for example, differ from in the case of NET. I thought that might be a better way of dealing with this than just give you stuff on how to prepare for it. The reason being very simple: there are a bunch of materials, the preparation kind of materials which are available online, and also there are a bunch of made easy books that all of you can, of course, procure. But also, I wanted to flag post right at the beginning that I'm not from core English. And then the reason I think Devaditya considered me is the fact that I happen to teach in a technology institute, and technology institutes have some sort of proclivity for considering NET as their entrance subject. I think I can help you guide along those lines. So what does GATE mean in terms of, your research prospects at the tech institutes and things like that. So if, like, before I get going, I just wanted to someone to quickly brief, like, are the students all from English department, or what is the organizational matrix like? Like, is it being organized by the English department? Are all the students from English department? Like, how's the constituency? Is there anyone who can just... Sorry, I
Mostly English department, sir.
mostly English department. Mostly English department. Okay, so is it okay? Like, should I speak in English? Should I speak in Bengali? Like, I asked the same question to Devaditya, but maybe I thought I'll ask it again to the audience. Like, is it better, like, if I speak in English, or is it better if I speak in Bengali?
English is okay, sir.
So I cannot hear you. Sorry.
It's okay, sir.
Okay. Oh, fine. So I'll briefly talk about the syllabus pattern, and then I'll move on to like why certain technical institutes have preference for GET. So I mean, as I said, it's not very different from what we prepare for the NET exam. But right now there are only certain papers and certain subjects that have NET from the humanities and social sciences. I think English, linguistics, sociology, anthropology, and linguistics. I think those are 5 or 6 branches that have NET. Not all the subjects till yet they do not have NET exams. Sorry, GATE exams. So all the subjects that you have NET for do not have GATE exams yet. So there are only 6 to 7 subjects, and these are increasingly more subjects are being incorporated. I think in 2020, I think they first started GATE in humanities, social sciences. There were, I think, 3 subjects, and then the number increased over the course of the years. So, especially for people from those 6 subjects, so this session would be more relevant for the others. But then, as I understand that most of you are anyway from English department, so it doesn't really matter. So my understanding is most of you will either write your GATE exams in English literature or linguistics. So, as I said, it's not very different from the NET exam, but the pattern and the marks distribution might be slightly different. The So you have the reasoning and comprehension skills, which is again like what do you call, like a core paper from across disciplines, including the sciences and engineering people. They also take the first paper, which is the core paper in logical reasoning and comprehension and stuff like that. Again, this is very similar to the NET first paper, but then it carries only 15% of the total weightage. So it's, in that sense, in terms of the weightage and the distribution of the marks, it's slightly different. So it's multiple choice question for, and it comprises, again, very similar to NET, like logical reasoning, your ability to comprehend and like reading passages and comprehending passages, and your expressions, clarity, vocabulary, analytical reasoning, logical reasoning. This is like a multiple choice question, 1 mark each. And likewise, I mean, this is not very onerous or very difficult, like the English language, English literature syllabus, for example. There are like 5 sections, although they might be overlapping. So there are like different genres in English literature with emphasis on the 19th and 20th century. So that's the like the first set of syllabus that you have for English literature. And then especially in the comparative context, like Anglophone English translation literatures from India, extending to some degree, and the larger literatures, English writing in from the subcontinent in general. So that's the second part. The third part is literary criticism, theory, critical and cultural intellectual traditions, approaches widely referred to as the discipline of English, like the English canon, so to say. And then you have history of English literature, and this is very much, again, similar to the NET stuff. And also, I understand some of you are like taking courses on the history of English literature anyway in your colleges. So these are stuff that I'm sure that you are already in the process of doing. So the 5th part is research approaches and methodologies, including interpretive techniques, responses to literary forms, devices, concepts, and genres. So these are the 5 parts. So I'll quickly repeat. So the genres in English literature, with special emphasis on 19th and 20th century. That's the first part. The second part is the comparative context with special references to English, writing in English from across the Indian subcontinent. Part 3 is literary criticism and theory. Part 4 is history of English literature and literary studies. And then the second part is more literary techniques, devices, methodologies, literary forms, concepts, and genres. So these are the 5 sections, but then also it is important to remember these are not mutually exclusive. So when you take your subject paper, which in your cases most likely to be either English or linguistics. So these are, I'm not going into the linguistics things because I'm not on top of it. I happen to mostly deal with the English stuff, so I'll cover the English stuff in today's discussion. So when you take the subject-specific paper, which comprises 85 marks, that will cover these 5 sections, not necessarily in a mutually exclusive way. So there would be the questions that they ask. Those are not split across sections. So those are questions that will draw on all the 5 sections in random measure. So that is point number 1. And then I'll talk briefly about the pattern of questions, which I have noted it here. Yes, so the question pattern is actually different for different subjects. So the sciences, engineering, and also within different engineering streams, the patterns are different. For example, they have a different pattern for architecture. They have a very different pattern for computer science, for example. But it's like 15 marks for the general aptitude and 85 marks for the subject paper. That is constant. And then from within that 85 marks, the constituency is very different depending on which subject you are taking the test in. But for humanities, social science as an umbrella thing concerned, this has 25 marks plus 60 marks. These 60 marks is 1 mark each, either multiple choice questions or a set of what do you call those questions that can have more than 2 correct answers. I forget exactly the name. What is it called?
MSQ,
Sorry?
sir. MSQ.
Sorry?
MSQ, sir.
MSQ, multiple select questions. Sorry, yes. So it is MCQs and MSQs, correct. So those 65 marks will have 1 mark each multiple choice question or multiple select questions, and 25 marks question is random. They do not disclose well ahead that what kind of questions that would be. But in any case, if you have followed even the net question papers, there's no question of descriptive answers anymore. So it's either going to be MCQs or MSQs or NAT, like numerical aptitude tests. So those are mathematical problems that you have to arrive at a correct answer and provide a mathematical or a numerical solution. So that is the 25 marks, and then 25 plus 60. 60 is MCQs, and yeah. So and then of course, very similar to NET, the MCQs have negative markings, as you can well imagine from your NET stuff. So they carry 1 mark each, but you lose 1/3 of the mark if you wildly guess and you make wrong answers. That will penalize 1/3 of the whole marks, and likely for if the questions from within the 65 marks section, they would be split between either 1 mark question or 2 marks question. The 2 marks question, if you get it wrong, the negative marking would be 2/3 of negative marking. And then there's no negative marking for MSQs. Multiple select questions will have no negative marking. And likewise, the numerical answer questions will also have no negative marking. So these all questions would carry either 1 mark or 2 marks. So if it's a 1 mark question, the negative marks is 1/3, and the negative marking for 2 marks question is 2/3. So that's more or less the pattern, as you can imagine. So there's slight difference between the constituency of marks with the net exam pattern, but overall, I mean, if you look at the broader architecture, the overall architecture, it's not radically different. But I mean, this is the preparation kind of thing. And but then, of course, I mean, as I said, I'm not from core English literature. I do cultural studies, and my training is in cultural studies and comparative literature. So if you ask me about the preparation materials, I may not be the right person. Maybe your teachers at the college who are teaching English literature might be able to guide you to respective resources in terms of books. But again, those would be, in my understanding, very limited understanding, because like there are only 3-4 cycles of GATE exams that have happened. So we do not have, a big database to be able to compare still. But then, as I say, like these would be not radically different from the preparation materials that you would have otherwise used for NET exams. And of course, the English teachers, your English teachers back at the college would be able to guide you. For example, which is a good book to, study for English, the history of English literature. I mean, of course, a part of it would be already included in syllabus. So that's one thing. The other thing, this is the material aspect of the preparation in terms of the question, and like the weightage of the marks distribution, and the weightage and the negative marking, and all those kind of very material stuff. The other aspect of GET which I wanted to cover is more nuanced, in the sense that one might then ask, like, why GET at all? Like why like what is the relative advantage compared to NET, and like who would need to appear for GET as opposed to NET. So, I mean, my understanding is, although this is my speculation, I do not have any hard evidence at this point of time. So my speculation is, after some point, NET would be completely phased out. The reason is, I mean, I can say this from having taught at a technical institute. There are a lot of issues. There has been a lot of issues on the fact that we induct, especially the technical institutes, by which I mean the IITs and the NITs and the IISc and institutes like that. When they induct PhD students, and also like MTech students in cases of sciences and engineering, there has been some doubts and some objections regarding the fact that, like, especially with the PhD inductions, the humanities students we induct with their NET score, as opposed to the sciences and engineering student we induct with their GET score. So there's a disparity here, and a lot of people have been objecting to that, because at the end of the day, both humanities and the sciences students receive the same amount of fellowship. So there, yes.
Thing is, our sound device is creating some issues. So, would you speak a bit slower? I mean, I know you are on your normal flow, but if you speak a little slower, then probably the student will be able to understand
Okay.
better. And I will also request you to switch to Bangla at times.
Okay, fine. Fine. তাহলে মানে একটা, but feel free to interrupt me if there are still issues, and if there are like bandwidth issues, I'm happy to switch off the video if you want, but do not hesitate to interrupt.
Yes, I will.
না, এখন প্রশ্ন হচ্ছে যে নেট নয় গেট কেন দেবো, এইটা একটা ভ্যালিড প্রশ্ন। এবং এটা মানে অবভিয়াসলি যেটা আমি অনেকের সঙ্গে কথা বলে যেটা বুঝেছি, যে দুটো এক্সামের জন্য ইটস ভেরি ডিফিকাল্ট টু প্রিপেয়ার ফর 2 কম্পিটিটিভ এক্সামস simultaneously. This is the problem for students. যদি রিলেটিভ অ্যাডভান্টেজ কাউকে দিতে হয়, তাহলে নেটের জন্য প্রিপেয়ার করব না গেটের জন্য প্রিপেয়ার করব, এই এই প্রশ্নটা ভ্যালিড। মানে এতক্ষণ যেটা বললাম কি করে প্রিপেয়ার করব, দের আর মেটেরিয়ালস অন দি ইন্টারনেট, দের আর অলসো মেডিজিজ অ্যান্ড গাইড বুকস। ওইটা খুব একটা জটিল জিনিস না। যেইটা জটিল বলে আমার পার্সোনালি মনে হয় সেটা হচ্ছে কোনটাকে প্রায়োরিটি বেশি দেব এবং নেট এবং গেটের মধ্যে কোনটার রিলেটিভ অ্যাডভান্টেজ বেশি। এই এই প্রশ্নটা চট করে ডিসিশন নিতে অসুবিধা হয়। এবং হোয়াট এভার আই এম গোয়িং টু স্পিক নাও ইজ মাই পার্সোনাল ওপিনিয়ন। আই মিন, ডু নট কোট মি অন দিস, ডু নট সাইট মি অন দিস। এটা আমার পার্সোনাল ওপিনিয়ন। এটার রিলেটিভ মেরিট কি আছে, এটার প্রোস অ্যান্ড কনস, এগুলো স্টুডেন্টরা তাদের ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল সিচুয়েশন থেকে বিচার করতে পারবে। এটার কোনো রাইট অর রং আনসার হয় না। এবার যেটা আমি বললাম যে টেকনিক্যাল ইনস্টিটিউটে একটা সমস্যা অনেক দিন ধরে অনেকে পয়েন্ট করছেন যে একই ফেলোশিপ পাবে, তারা আলাদা আলাদা পরীক্ষা দিয়ে কেন ঢুকবে। সায়েন্স ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং এর ক্ষেত্রে ওরা গেট দিয়ে ঢুকছে এবং হিউম্যানিটিজ এর ক্ষেত্রে আমাদের স্টুডেন্টরা নেট দিয়ে আসে। তো এই একটা সমস্যার কথা অনেক বছর ধরে এই টেকনিক্যাল ইনস্টিটিউট গুলোর একটা সমস্যা হয়ে রয়েছে। এবং আপনারা জানেন এই বোধহয় 5-7 বছর আগে যাদবপুরেও একটা সমস্যা হয়েছিল এই কমন এন্ট্রেন্স টেস্ট নিয়ে, যে ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং এর স্টুডেন্টরা জয়েন্ট দিয়ে ঢুকছে, আবার এই হিউম্যানিটিজ এর ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল ডিপার্টমেন্টরা তাদের টেস্ট নিজেরা কন্ডাক্ট করছে। ওই অটোনমি ডিপার্টমেন্টের দেওয়া ছিল, সেটা সম্প্রতি সেই অটোনমি চলে গেছে, এখন সব হিউম্যানিটিস ডিপার্টমেন্টরা একসঙ্গে একটা টেস্ট করে। তো এই একই সমস্যাটা, এটা একদম অ্যানালগাস ওই সমস্যাটার সঙ্গে। এই বলো, হ্যাঁ বলো।
There is another technical issue.
হ্যাঁ,
The
yes.
charger device suddenly has stopped working. So can I request you to pause for a couple of minutes?
Fine, not a problem. But I didn't quite understand what has paused.
Yes. We are going to be using a different device. Please
Okay,
bear
okay.
with us for around
Fine.
5 minutes.
Fine. Not a problem.